Hi, welcome to SBR Foreign Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are kicking off our Super Bowl 47 coverage right now with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. It's the Monday right after the Super Bowl matchup has been announced and the lines have been released. And we are just going to get some first opening thoughts from Joe Duffy, who's been around a long time, industry veteran. Joe, thanks for being here with us once again.
Thank you, Peter, for having me on the kickoff team. I will try to be handicapping special teamer.
Actually, Joe, we're going to need you to do special teams and be the starting quarterback for this handicapping assignment. You think you can handle both?
This is one time in my life I definitely go both ways, right. That's for sure.
All right, okay. Joe, you know, the reason I wanted to have you on for the first thoughts call is because you've been around for so long. You've been handicapping professionally for how long, 25 years?
Yeah, I've actually got my start in the business for Dial Sports in the mid-'80s and full-time since 1988.
Unbelievable. So this is, how many Super Bowls have you handicapped in your life?
Well, as far as a professional handicapper, now you want me to do the math. Going back, I guess, to 1989 would have been my first Super Bowl that I actually sold picks. But as far as handicapping, it really goes back to the early ages. I used to do it as a hobby. I won't get into the boring story, but I used to compare myself to some of the handicappers in the Philadelphia newspaper. So I think I was an aspiring handicapper literally since age 8 or 9.
All right. Born to do it. Born to do it. All right. So let's get right into it. What are your opening thoughts? Having, you know, this is your 32nd Super Bowl or whatever it is. What are your general opening thoughts when you take a look at this matchup in line?
Well, we had projected before the Sunday's games that if this was going to be the matchup, that it would be San Francisco 5.5, maybe as high as a 6-point favorite, and a total of about 47.5. So it really wasn't all that much of a surprise. Obviously, Baltimore was extremely impressive, so the line has dropped, and I know some of the sharps are actually betting on the Ravens as well. Ray Lewis established that he is clearly back and he's still at the top of his game. I think that's part of the reason why the line dropped a little bit, but San Francisco clearly is the best team in the NFL. They deserve to be the favorite, but it's going to be one heck of a Super Bowl, as the odds makers indicate.
Yeah, I'll tell you something that's interesting to me. I noticed that the total has dropped pretty significantly. It was 48.5, I think, when it opened. Now it's down to 47.5 and juiced to the under. And I have to assume, maybe you can shed some light on this, I have to assume that early action on the total like that, that's not the bookies moving the line in response to public action. I'm assuming that's got to be significant early sharp action that caused that movement, right?
No, that's true. And not only that, one of the people I like to follow on Twitter is Steve Fezzik, who at one time was the most feared gambler in the world. The last 3-4 years, his football picks have been so-so. But I will say, regardless of whether or not his picks have been great the last 3 or 4 years, that he knows the Vegas markets as well as anybody. And he was saying some of the Vegas books actually opened it up at 50 and 51. I think the main reason is Baltimore was really the first team that had a good game defensively, where it's been an all-offensive playoff so far, especially the deeper you go. But Baltimore did step up on defense, and Ray Lewis, he's at the top of his game. He's now leading the NFL in tackles as far as the playoffs are concerned. And maybe some people are worried that Colin Kaepernick, he's got 9 games under his belt. He's played fantastically, but experience in a playoff is big, but the Super Bowl takes it up another level. Plus, I also think that that San Francisco probably is going to use the option a lot more, because Baltimore's only faced one option team this year when they was Washington, so they haven't really faced an athletic quarterback like this. And Washington had a lot of success running the ball, so San Francisco may keep the ball on the ground, both from their running back Gore, and also, as we know, Kaepernick is a great running quarterback as well. But no, certainly the sharp action was on Baltimore and the under so far.
All right, well, I'll tell you this. You know, I don't necessarily represent the sharp opinion, but I was thinking the over is going to be a great bet, especially if it goes down to 47. I mean, it's being played indoors, right? You got an explosive offense in San Francisco. The Baltimore defense was vulnerable for much of the year. You got Flacco, who, you know, is starting to play better and can throw, and Ray Rice, and I'm thinking 47 on the over might be the great play. But what do I know? What do you think of that? Your first thought?
No, you are correct. That was my initial gut reaction, and so far, pending further research, it is because of a lot of the reasons you said. Ray Lewis, it's indisputable that his return to the lineup has made Baltimore a much better defense, but 2 weeks ago, they gave up a ton of yardage, so I'm not completely sold on Baltimore's defense. Another theory may be, where the odds makers are trying to think a little bit ahead, there are still some people that think the old Baltimore Ravens defense, that there are a lot of people out there that think that the Ravens defense is pretty dominant, which they were a couple years ago, but they were not this year. And I always look at longer term numbers than I do the short term. And I think that Baltimore did have their best defensive effort of the year, all things considered, because it was such a big game and it was against a great quarterback. But all in all, the Ravens defense isn't all that great. And I think the fact that they played well yesterday means that the total is artificially low. And I actually think that it could drop because of Baltimore's reputation.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Is there any chance at all that we're sitting here in like a two-person square echo chamber and that, we're actually completely way off on this?
Well, as a general rule of thumb, of course, the public does like to bet the over.
Right.
So that is and all the square players come out for the Super Bowl. So everybody's who's the Joey Bag of Donut guy would much prefer the over. But no, not really. I don't think there's going to be any overwhelming consensus where the sports books may have pretty good luck as far as getting 50% of the money on each side, because all the early talk, I've seen it go both ways. If anything, this is another thing that surprised me. And I don't put a lot of stock in what the media says, but as a general rule of thumb, when the media makes their predictions straight up, they like to predict the favorite. CBS Sportsline had 8 of their 10 quote-unquote experts actually predicting Baltimore to win the game outright. So if I had to predict the markets, I think if anything, there will be, based on both what Fezzik said, based on what I saw on the CBS Sportsline, I think there's going to be a lot of money, not necessarily sharp money, but a lot of money on Baltimore on the money line.
I don't know. I'm leaning the other way. I'm leaning towards San Francisco. I even liked them when they were at -4. If they went down to -3, I think I'd love them, but I don't know. What do I know?
Well, the 49ers are the one team that from the beginning of the year till the end of the year, they were clearly one of the top teams in the NFL. And while Baltimore obviously is a much better team with Ray Lewis in the lineup, the greatest coaching move I've seen in a long time, and I know the gutsy coaching move, that term is overused a lot, but obviously when Jim Harbaugh went to Colin Kaepernick, even after Alex Smith came back healthy, that was a pretty gutsy move because he could have been, if Kaepernick failed and they lost some games and they wound up being, a wild card team playing on the road or whatever the scenario was, and then they had to go back to Alex Smith. The quote unquote, I think, safer move would have been to go back to Alex Smith when he was healthy. But when you look at San Francisco's statistics, you got to realize that they're a much better offense than their overall statistics show, because there is no debate that Kaepernick has given this offense a brand new dimension, and their offense is much better than their overall stats would indicate.
Absolutely. I mean, I understand the argument about a rookie in the Super Bowl. That's sort of an unknown, but hey, what can I say? I'm a believer in Kaepernick. Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. Great first thoughts. There's no one else I'd rather have on the show to give some first thoughts on the opening Super Bowl line. Will you come back next week and give us an official pick?
Absolutely, Peter. Much
Okay, great. Thanks. Good talking to you, Joe.